I just wanted to add a little thing in saying that I had to cut the video in half, so that's why there's 2 parts. So
5 is like an easy one. It's self-harm and suicidal ideation. I don't think this one should necessarily be under BPD. It currently is, and as I said, like, it's gonna change, hopefully. I think self-harm is so much more common now. There has definitely been a trend of self-harm happening. When I first started, I was 15. I didn't know a single person. I'd never seen it on TV. I'd never seen it in films. I was very unusual. About 2 years after, when Tumblr became a really big thing, it was suddenly all over Tumblr. I knew probably about 7 people who had suddenly started. 2 of them who I've talked to, they've said that they started because they'd seen me do it and they were curious to see if it helped, which I don't feel great about at all. I feel really guilty, but you know, that's life. People see things, they copy it, that's all right. I think that self-harm is attention seeking. I don't think attention seeking is necessarily a bad thing. Crying out for help, needing support, going to that length to need the attention, to need that support, that's not a bad thing. People need that help. We should be open-minded. We should be stopping it get to that level that self-harm needs to be the sort of the attention-seeking level that it needs to get to. Support should be given before, when the mental distress isn't manifesting into a physical obvious sign of like self-destruction. 6 is extreme mood swings. I definitely get these. It's awful. I can go from like talking to my mum or like talking to my mum and like being like completely fine, and then one thing I'll happen to say, or she'll happen to say, and my whole mood like that will change, and I will be explosively angry or explosively upset. Like, I'll just, you know, hysterically cry for half an hour, and then like there'll be suddenly an emotion that will come over me and I'll be like, oh, fine, completely fine. Number 8 is explosive anger, which I think ties in very much with extreme mood swings. Again, you know, your mood swings can go from, you know, really happy to really sad, or really sad to really scared, you know, like huge amounts, like waves of anxiety, full-on panic attacks just for no apparent reason. And I think a lot of why I prefer the name emotional dysregulation rather than emotionally unstable disorder or BPD is because it's sort of, we're very delicate emotionally. We're very much like thin skin, and everyone else has much thicker skin, and no matter how much we try our best to hold the emotions in, you know, one small nick of the skin and we've ripped open. And it's very, very painful and very, very hard and very, very scary. But I think with things like DPT and just general therapies, you can learn ways to cope and to sit with the anxiety and to use distraction techniques and use mindfulness, which people think is bullshit, but actually it's pretty good, and we do it most days and we just don't even realise. Like, I love going on walks outside, and that is so mindful, and you don't even think of it as mindfulness. So yeah, it does work, just it's hard. Chronic feelings of emptiness is a huge part of BPD. It's this sort of full-on feeling of just never going to be happy, like as if you're like a black hole inside you and all the emotions come in but you don't sort of feel them, you just drink them up. It's horrific, and it's for prolonged periods of time. It's not necessarily for, you know, a day, it's for like months on end can be. When I was probably 17 to probably when I was 22, that whole period was pretty much just pure emptiness, and that was horrible feeling, and it's really hard to explain to anyone, but I think if you've ever had depression, it's quite similar to that sort of no energy, no mental strength, like sluggish feeling. It's like the whole world is just darkened, and it's not great, and you just feel nothing. Like, anyway. And then number 9 is dissociation. Dissociation is the coping mechanism of sort of leaving your body, leaving your mind, when you're overwhelmed with emotion, or when trauma's happening, when a negative experience is happening. A lot of people experience dissociation when being assaulted, when, suffering with PTSD, it's very common. It's leaving the house, not realising, that you've left the house, and ending up, 20-minute journey away, being like, don't really remember any of it, don't remember how I got here. Basically, I think there's an overdiagnosis because self-harm is the only thing that is under BPD. It's not under anything else yet. I think it needs to be its own category. I think that it's a misleading name, and it's very outdated. Like, to say that you're borderline sounds as if you're like borderline between two. So it sounds like you've got split personality almost. And I think that that's outdated. I don't like its new name, which is emotionally unstable, because that sounds like I'm making it up, and it sounds like I'm just unstable, like, get your shit together. I don't like that. I don't know anyone who likes that. I don't mind emotional dysregulation, because I think that describes it very well, but again, I don't like it as a name. Anyway, fun facts. Okay, 1 in 10 people with BPD will successfully kill themselves, which is a really daunting fact. I have dealt with suicide attempts, and they are scary, and I've ended up in the ICU, and it is not fun. Like, it's not fun for me, it's not fun for my family, it's not great. And I think that there needs to be more awareness and more support to deal with crises, and to deal with those intense emotions so they don't spiral into a suicide attempt. And then 7 out of 10 people with BPD will attempt suicide at some point. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they attempt once. That could mean that they attempt every week. Doesn't necessarily mean that their attempt is medically severe every time. But it means that they have the intent of wanting to die when they start it. I know a lot of people, including myself, I've started suicide attempts, and halfway through, especially when I was younger, I think my first ever one, I got very panicked about halfway through, and I sort of continued because I didn't want to be a failure at it. I don't know, it was stupid, but it scared me. Whereas now I just don't care if I do it. Anyway, right. I think also the main thing that I see a lot of people getting angry at is that younger people aren't allowed to be diagnosed before 18. I'm so glad that I wasn't diagnosed before 18 officially, because I think a lot of people are diagnosed, and it is specifically to do with puberty. Don't come for me. You can be diagnosed with, I think it's called like, oh gosh, what's it called? It's something to like, it's showing signs of becoming BPD. Basically, when you're younger, you have a lot of anxiety. You have a lot of anxiety revolving around who you are as a person. You have a lot of anxiety to do with school, with just life. You're very vulnerable emotionally, and it's also the time that you have the main decisions you want in life. So I really do think that people under 18 should not be diagnosed, because you have a lot of shit going on, and yes, basically, just don't come for me. Please stick to over 18. Okay, I'm going to end it on a positive really quickly. There are 3 main things that I think that people with BPD have that is a positive trait of their illness. And I feel like they should be focused on more, because it's really scary being diagnosed with BPD, being told that 1 in 10 people are going to kill themselves successfully. Like, that is terrifying, you know, that 1 in, 7 out of 10 even people attempt suicide. That is scary, you know, to be diagnosed and have mental health professionals treat you differently. I know people who have gone in for self-harm support and stitches and stuff and been just told that there's no point like treating them because they'll just do it again. I had people being told that their attempts aren't severe enough and they just need to go home, and being completely invalidated. I've personally had doctors tell me that I'm selfish. I've had, ambulance people tell me, admittedly, I've only had one negative experience with an ambulance person, but she told me I was selfish. I've had just negative experiences, but I'm very lucky. I've not had very many. I know of people who have had a lot of negative experiences. So yeah, we're gonna end on a high. Basically, the 3 main things I think that are positive that people don't talk about with BPD are that you value people a lot more. Like, I cannot appreciate my friends more. Oh, emotional. The people who have stuck by me are incredible. Like, they are incredible. My family are incredible for sticking by me. I'm very lucky and I value them an awful lot. And the people I know who also have BPD, they value people an awful lot. I think that's a real thing to treasure. Oh, dear me. Okay. Second thing, B, I can't even do it yet anyway, is that if you do therapy, you have a lot of insight into yourself. You have a lot of insight into how you cope. You have a lot of insight into how you don't cope. People who don't experience mental health support in any way, whether that's, counselling, therapy, going through workbooks, looking things online. If you haven't experienced mental illness, it's very hard to be able to express your emotions, to know how you can positively turn things around, how you can tell if something negative in your brain is going to happen, and how you can deal with that, like how you can safety net yourself. So I think being insightful is very, very positive. And it means that you also are usually a better listener and you can be more helpful when others have problems. So that's a good one. And also my last one is that I think that people with BPD, because they've often gone through trauma, I'm not saying everyone is going through like rape or sexual assault or anything like that, but a lot of people have gone through trauma, and that can be, bullying at school, it can be being in a car crash, it can be, it's loads of different traumas, and I think definitely with bullying, people sort of shove it under as if it isn't as distressing as it can be, or being cheated on can be really traumatic and change how you see relationships, terrify you of getting in one, opening yourself up. So I think traumas range from different things, but I think it makes you a lot more compassionate if you can open up and you can trust people. It makes you a lot more compassionate when other people are struggling, because you've dealt with whatever you've dealt with that has led to you having BPD. And I think that's a real quality to hold on to. Anyway, I'm bored now. I'm not making this anymore. Goodbye.